Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us during your lunch break to zoom into the void with the Danville Science Center, presented by Danakid Associates. I'm Ben Wright, Immersive Experiences Coordinator here at the Danville Science Center, and you are about to join me on a tour of the night sky for the month of October 2020. As is always the case with each of our virtual online interactive discussions, you are invited to participate in the dialogue. You are welcome to present any questions that you may have during our tour, and at the end, I will attempt to go back and answer some of those questions. If you're joining us via Zoom, you can submit those questions directly in the Zoom client using the Chat with Host feature at the bottom of the page. If you're joining us via Facebook Live, you can submit your questions directly below this event presentation in the comments section. And again, we will attempt to go back and respond to a few of those. We begin, though, as we always do, in the backyard of the Danville Science Center, directly outside of the Digital Dome Theater, which has recently gone through some major upgrades. Upgrades that we will finally be sharing with the public next month. So look for the grand reopening of the theater and the museum as a whole coming mid-November. But now we're standing in the backyard of the museum. You can tell we're already facing the southern sky, the southern view. And if we take a few steps back, we can see that to our right is the west. To our left is the east, meaning that directly behind us is the north. If we look in the corner at our clock, we can tell it's 3 minutes past noon on October 13th, 2020. We're going to use this clock to fast forward to just after midnight to spot one of the exciting objects you can see in tonight's sky. So join me as we fast forward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours into the future. This is our view tonight at midnight. You can just make out the outline of the edge of the museum, but if you look directly above it, you'll see an object that looks like a bright reddish orange star. Not a star at all. We are viewing what may be a possible future vacation destination for some of you joining our discussion. That is, of course, Mars. The fourth planet from the sun reaches opposition tonight, the point at which Mars resides directly opposite the sun, with Earth in the middle. This results in the side of the planet facing us receiving maximum illumination, effectively creating a full Mars, similar to a full moon. This is the brightest Mars will appear for the next 2 years when it next reaches opposition. Mars gets its ruddy red color from being covered in layers of iron oxide dust. Swirling columns of wind can stir up this dust into dangerous storms called dust devils. In the summer of 2018, the planet experienced dust devils violent enough to block out the sun and damage current spacecraft exploring the Martian surface. Here is a picture of the InSight lander taken before and after the dust storms. Notice the large amounts of dust on the solar arrays that power the lander. You may notice that the red item in the center of the lander is not there in this picture. That's a seismometer that's been placed on the surface of Mars. InSight has revealed a possible indication of plate tectonics as Mars experiences seismic activity similar to that on Earth. Mars has recorded the sound made by these Mars quakes that sound something like this. In addition to dust devils and Mars quakes, the red planet's magnetosphere is significantly thinner than Earth's. This means that Mars receives much more of the sun's radiation despite being on average 50% further away from our central star. It is expected that human visitors will experience up to 700 times greater exposure to the radiation than we do here on Earth. Fortunately, global scientists are working to protect those visitors that may include 19-year-old Alyssa Carson, codename Blueberry, who is anticipated to be the first person to walk on Mars. Carson will be in her 30s when the mission to Mars arrives at its destination, possibly as early as the year 2035. If you dare to view Mars in tonight's sky, you may notice some shooting stars around the red planet. The minor meteor showers of the northern Taurids and autumn Arenids are currently occurring, as well as some of the lingering light from the Draconids meteor shower currently occurring. But to truly see some shooting stars, you're going to have to wait about another week until the pre-dawn hours of October 21st. Doing so, and going outside, looking towards the sky, you may get to spot the most brilliant meteor shower of the fall, the Orionids meteor shower, which can produce 10 to 20 shooting stars an hour and radiate out of the constellation Orion the Hunter. The Orionids can be seen in multiple spots throughout the globe. The Orion the Hunter, some say, is the most easily spotted constellation. Recognizable by the 1, 2, 3 stars making up the belt, and 1, 2, 3 stars making up the sword of this mighty hunter, Orion has spent the summer below the horizon, but returns to prominence this month. It has been hiding from Scorpio the Scorpion, or at least that's how the story goes. Greek legend has it that Orion was the greatest hunter of the ancient world. He would brag about his capacity to track and kill any and every animal that exists, going as far to journey to the underworld to slay the ghosts of a select few a second time. Concerned, goddess of the earth and ancestral mother of all life there is, Gaia, conjured a giant scorpion to hunt and kill Orion to prevent the successful completion of his goal. This battle has continued into the heavens as the rising of the constellation Scorpio in the early spring results in the descent of Orion past the horizon. While Scorpio currently descending, Orion is free to return to glory. The two are never visible in the same sky. Despite his efforts, the constellation of Orion the Hunter actually features a source of life, the life of a star. Found within the boundaries of the Great Hunter's Sword, the Orion Nebula is a stellar nursery, a place where galactic gas and dust condenses to form a star. When enough dust and gas gathers, the core of a star is born. The gravity of this core draws in more dust and gas, allowing the star to grow and radiate energy. As long as gravity and radial energy are balanced, the star continues to thrive. But as stars age, eventually one of these will overcome the other. Smaller stars tend to lose their material, ending life as hot white dwarfs, but massive stars can blow up into massive nuclear explosions known as supernova. Up until 2 months ago, one of the biggest and brightest stars in the observable universe, Betelgeuse, found in the shoulder of Orion the Hunter, was feared to be beginning the supernova process. Around this time last year, astronomers noticed that the light of supergiant Betelgeuse appeared to be dimming. As supermassive stars reach the end of their lives, they begin fusing iron in their cores. This results in less energy radiating outward, making them appear dim. As the core cools, the star's material collapses in on itself, providing a surplus of new fuel that can result in massive supernova explosions. Fortunately, images from the Hubble Space Telescope revealed that the dimming of Betelgeuse's life was actually the result of a massive hot material injection that created a dust cloud large enough to dim the star's light. Betelgeuse has returned to full brightness beginning back in April. Many of the events of April have made 2020 a unique year. Another unique event will occur on the last day of this month. October 31st, Halloween night, will feature a full moon. The second full moon of the month, marking it as a blue moon. Our lunar Saturn night will appear its natural color. A blue moon is the name given to any full moon that appears twice in 1 month. Our Halloween moon will feature a blue hunter's moon, named such by indigenous Americans who would use the light of the full moon to hunt fattened deer as food stores. It will have an effect on our planet as the moon, earth, and sun will be lined up in a straight line, resulting in more gravitational pull on our core. Ocean tidal activity will be particularly high, experiencing a period of spring tides. 2 weeks later, the Earth, Sun, and Moon will be arranged in a right angle, resulting in particularly low tides, known as neap tides. Earth experiences 2 periods of neap and spring tides every 28 days as the Moon continues in its predictable orbit. Gravitational pull has effects not just the oceans, but all items on Earth and those things leaving it. The position of the Sun and Moon is considered when scheduling rocket launches to space. The launch of Northrop Grumman's Cygnus NG-14 spacecraft, discussed during last month's Void, successfully occurred on October 2nd, following delays due to unfavorable weather conditions. In addition to a resupply of food and materials for conducting experiments in space, Cygnus NG-14 is delivering a new $23 million toilet to the International Space Station. The Universal Waste Management System was designed using actual astronaut feedback, is smaller, lighter, more efficient, and far more user-friendly to female astronauts than past iterations. Everybody goes to the bathroom, but not everyone asks questions. Now is your opportunity to do exactly that, to present any questions that you may have had during our presentation. Again, if you're joining us through Zoom, you can do that using the Chat with Host feature there in the client. And if you're joining through Facebook, then you can submit your question directly below this feed in the comments section there. Our first question comes from Taylor. Taylor asks, if a star gets out of balance, can it create a black hole? Yes, that's exactly how black holes are formed, Taylor. You're right. Only supermassive stars. We said that sometimes supermassive stars can create giant supernovas, which is an explosion out. Again, the result of the cooling of their core. More fuel sort of collapses in, gets reignited, and explodes out. But it is possible, maybe rare, maybe not. We're finding perhaps less rare than we thought, that instead of exploding back out, the star keeps going in. It implodes in on itself, creating an incredibly dense area of space that not even light can escape. We call that a black hole. And they're pretty interesting and pretty important to scientists right now. As we discover more about them, we think that the energy from black holes may be what fuel things like our own galaxy. So yes, it is possible that a black hole results from the death of a star. Good question. Ryan asks, what causes a moon dog? Moon dog. You may have heard the term moon dog before, or the term sun dog. They're kind of rare, but if you happen to spot one, they're a pretty neat thing to see. They're the result of ice crystals formed in clouds near the horizon. When the sun is starting to set for the day and is near the horizon, or a full moon nears the horizon, it's possible the light from those objects gets refracted by the ice crystals in those clouds. This produces a circle of light around the sun or the moon, which kind of looks like a halo. And on either side, left or right of those objects, you can see another bright circle that looks like an additional moon or an additional sun. Those spots are called moon dogs or sun dogs. They're kind of rare, but if you happen to see one, consider yourself lucky. They're pretty fantastic. Ryan goes on to ask that he heard that moon dogs mean snow is on the way. How does that work? Is this true? Well, maybe. The fact that ice crystals are needed to create this visual phenomenon would suggest that the weather's got to be cold enough and moist enough, saturated enough to produce these ice crystals, which could lead to heavier precipitation like snow. So personally, I don't know if it's a guaranteed thing, but it could be one way to help us predict that maybe snow is coming. Nancy asks, how long would a trip to Mars take? Good question. The Perseverance rover, the most recent spacecraft to explore Mars from NASA, was launched several months ago and is expected to arrive on the Martian surface in February. That is our, at least America's, NASA's current attempts to getting something to Mars, and that takes a while. It's anticipated by the time we are ready to send humans to the Martian surface that a trip could take at least 9 months to get there. It's the majority of a year. Long travel requires a lot of fuel, a lot of food, a lot of water, and other items not accessible in space. So part of exploring Mars is indeed tackling this challenge of just how do we get there safely. Maybe we'll know in the 2030s. And one more fun question from Angela. Angela says, $23 million for a toilet? Is it worth it? Is space travel worth it? Well, Angela, space travel, in my opinion, yeah, space travel is pretty important. When answering questions like this, we tend to look at technologies that have come from space travel, things like memory foam mattresses, infrared in-ear thermometers, which are pretty important right now, cell phone cameras, scratch-resistant lenses, and of course, Velcro, everyone's favorite. These advances are important. Solar cells, LASIK eye surgery, insulin pumps, all results of space exploration. But it's not just those advances in technology that make space exploration worthwhile. The very task of doing so help us better understand what it means to be human, what it means to be on a planet, and to be good caretakers for that planet. Indeed, part of the endeavor of doing things like exploring Mars is to help us perhaps predict the future of our planet. By looking at Mars' present, we can explore some of its past, which could tell us more about our future. To me, that's certainly worth millions and billions of dollars. For those that prefer a more quantitative answer, in 2014, the University of Texas conducted a study. They found that NASA's budget that year was $17.5 billion. For each dollar spent, $8 to $10 was returned on investments, which to me sounds like a pretty good payoff and a pretty good return. We hope that you return for next month's Void and the second Tuesday in November, November 10th, when we will again be joining you via Zoom and Facebook Live to explore some of the exciting activities that will occur then. Again, we thank you for joining us for today's virtual online interstellar discussion presented by Danakid Associates. We hope to see you again in November. Until then, stay well, stay healthy, and of course, stay curious. Thank you and goodbye.